Hello everyone, my name is Kritika and welcome to From Crisp Design to Clean Documentation, an Introduction to Fusion 360 Drawings. It's a long name, but anyway. Okay, so this class is an introduction to the documentation component in the Fusion 360 application. And it's generally intended for beginners to intermediate users, but don't worry about it. If it doesn't sound like you, that's okay. So what we're going to be doing in the next hour or so is to explore the full feature set that the Fusion Drawings offers. So that's everything including the user interface, the commands, and all of the functionality. We'll learn about the various access points and shortcuts in the drawings, basically a couple of different ways to do things so that you can work efficiently. We'll also see how we can create and edit drawings, and once you've created those production quality drawings, we'll also see how we can share them with downstream consumers. Okay, so before I go ahead with the content, a little bit about myself. I'm a computer engineer by degree and a software quality assurance engineer at Autodesk by profession. And I've been working with the Fusion 360 drawings team for the last couple of years or so. And prior to that, I used to work with AutoCAD Web and AutoCAD a little bit, so I have some experience there. And in my free time, I like to watch movies or listen to good music. And if I'm not too lazy, maybe do some yoga. And I'm really excited to be here today to present drawings to all of you. Okay, so the agenda for this session is pretty straightforward. Firstly, an introduction to what Fusion 360 is and what Fusion Drawings is. Then we'll spend some time looking at the user interface and the features in the drawings environment. After which, we'll move on to some aspects around working with drawings like collaboration and version management. Then we'll wrap up with some takeaways and open up the floor for some Q&A. Okay. Has anybody seen this slide before? Okay, I'm not surprised. So I just borrowed this from one of our marketing decks, so I wouldn't be surprised if many of you are familiar with this. Okay, so before I talk about it, how many of you have used Fusion 360 or are actively using Fusion 360? Wow, that's a good number. Okay, great. So for those who are still new to it or getting familiar with Fusion 360, it's a cloud-based 3D CAD, CAM, and CAE application that's been designed to meet marketing needs end-to-end. So you can create your models in Fusion 360, and that can be solid models, or you can work with open meshes, or I guess you might have heard about organic T-spline modeling in the keynote speech or yesterday's innovation forum, right? So you can do all of that in Fusion 360, and once you have that model, you can take it through rendering, animation, you can do simulation on it, and depending on how you want to fabricate it, you can set up your machine tool paths or connect to 3D printers, create drawings out of it. And the whole application has been designed to facilitate a lot of collaboration and rapid iterations. So there's tools for that too. And then there's the data management or PLM aspect of it. So there's a lot going on in Fusion 360. And in the next few minutes, we'll be focusing mainly on the drawings. A couple more things, this whole cloud support has a lot of benefits to it. Like you may have heard that simulation or rendering makes use of the cloud capabilities to do some of its computation. One of the advantages is that you get anytime, anywhere access to your content. So to begin with, actually, Fusion 360 is a cross-platform application, so you can work on Windows or Mac. And to go along with that, you also have review apps which are available for iOS and Android, where you can view your designs, share, do all that stuff. Or if you're working from a browser, you have web access as well from A360 Drive or Viewer. You may have heard of that too. Okay, so that's an introduction to Fusion 360. Now, to introduce drawings, I'll play a short video that the marketing team had put together earlier. I think it was created a while ago, but it still holds good.
You've told us that 2D drawings are still a critical part of your design process. So just as we were first with 2D on a PC, Autodesk is first to the cloud with Fusion 360 and 2D drawings. With Autodesk Fusion 360, you can create a drawing from any model in your Fusion project. And I'm not talking about a watered-down, reverse-engineered mini-me version of a DWG, a real Autodesk DWG file. Autodesk Fusion 360 has all the features you would expect to have to quickly lay out views, create section views, add dimensions, notes, custom properties on the title block, all the things you need to create a production drawing with Fusion 360. Now, of course, we didn't stop at part drawings. You can create assembly views just as easily. Grab a parts list, slap down some balloons, and you're done. And since nobody plays better with others than Autodesk, spit this drawing out as a PDF just as easily as DWG files. Let's go. Visit autodesk.com/Fusion360 and get started today.
Okay, there you go. So to expand on that, a Fusion drawing is a document that's derived from a Fusion 360 model. And at this point, you can create ASME or ISO drawings. I think in the future, we're also looking at expanding to GB, DIN, and JIS. But at this point, we have ASME and ISO. And the thing about Fusion drawings is it is built on AutoCAD's drawing engine. In fact, I think you can even extend to say AutoCAD Mechanical's drawing engine. So you have the world's best documentation tool working for you. At some point, documentation or drawings used to be the most requested feature for Fusion 360, and we were kind of the last component to become a part of Fusion 360. But today, I think we're a pretty big and distributed team. I come from the office in Singapore. We also have development teams in Shanghai, India, the US, and a couple of members in other locations as well. Okay, so moving on to our next section, the user interface and features. So this section is going to be more of a demo. I really have the slides just for reference in case I forget something. Okay, so to access Fusion drawings, we start with a model, and you can create drawings either from the model or from animation keyframes, and you can create either part drawings or full assembly drawings. Let's take a look at how to do that. So I'm switching to my Fusion 360 here, and I have the model of a stop valve. Okay, and what we're going to do now is to create a part drawing from one of the components and lay down some views, annotations, see how we can edit things so they look better. And once we're happy with that, we'll also move ahead with things like exploded views, bill of materials with a full assembly drawing. Okay, so let's begin. This is our modeling environment, and what we can do is just go to the File menu, say New Drawing, and From Design. And you'll see that by default, this selects the full assembly, but you can uncheck that and select individual components that you're interested in to create the drawing. The other way to do this would be directly from the browser tree. So this thing you have here on the left, so let's say we're interested in this component. You can just select that. You can select more if you want. Right-click and do the same thing, create new drawing. So that takes us back to the same dialog. And you'll see that now the reference is one component. And underneath that, we have some configuration settings for how we want to create the drawing. So I can choose my standard, and that can be ASME or ISO. Oops. The units can be inches or millimeters, and the sheet size, which really depends on the standard. Okay, I'll just leave it at the defaults and hit OK. And this takes us to the 2D drawing workspace. And by default, the base view command gets launched, which is a 2D projection of whatever we chose in the model to create the drawing. I'll take a few seconds here to explain some of the important UI elements that we have. So right at the top, we have the quick access toolbar with controls like show or hide the dashboard where you have your files. Then file menu, save, undo, redo, that sort of stuff. Then we have the toolbar, which is divided into a few different panels based on the type of commands. And with each panel, you can click on the drop-down menu, and that'll give you more options underneath that category. And then right at the bottom, we have the navigation bar with pan, zoom, fit controls. Okay, back to the active command. Now we have the base view command, and we can specify some location for placing this. I'll just click somewhere. To the right, we have the command dialog, and this is something that comes up with a lot of commands where you can specify certain properties that you want to change. So in the case of the view dialog, we have the orientation. So when you expand this, you have the standard orthogonal and isometric views. But right at the top, there are also these little blue icons. They represent custom named views, so you can create custom orientations if you want. And I think there are, there's notes in the handout on how to do that, so let's skip over that. So I'll just choose right view for this, maybe change a couple of other settings like the style. Just go for visible edges, make the scale a little bit bigger, and there. That's our first view. And once we have this, it's really easy to go ahead and create more views out of this. So I'm just going to go back to the views panel, create some projected views. This is a top view and an isometric view. So whenever you're done working with a particular command, you can hit enter. Another thing that you can do is right-click contextual marking menu. And this is really similar to the other Fusion 360 workspaces as well. So if you've worked with it before, you'd probably be aware of it already. The marking menu is contextual, and it contains options based on the command that you're working with. Like, you have OK, cancel, a couple of other commands here. And this one right here is, it's going to lead to a secondary marking menu with some more annotations. And I find this really useful because you don't even have to click and work with it. If you kind of know where the commands are, you can invoke, what is called a right-click gesture like that. Just do that. And that works. OK, so we've placed a couple of views now. Let's quickly add some annotations. I'm going to zoom around the base view. So moving to the annotation panel, the default dimension symbol that you'll see here, it's a smart dimension tool. So it's going to adapt itself based on what edge you're picking. So if you're hovering over a straight edge, it's a linear dimension. And even if you pick points, actually, let's try that. So if I pick 2 points, I can have an aligned dimension this way, or I can just flip it around to get those orthogonal dimensions. Or you can hover over a circular edge and get a radial dimension. So it's adaptive that way. So maybe I'll quickly place one linear dimension here. OK. And you can continue placing more. But if you are in need of your standard dimensioning tools, those are available here in the annotation menu. So here we have the linear, aligned, angular, radius, and diameter dimensions as well. So I'll maybe place some linear dimensions now, like that. Again, you can continue doing it or end it whenever you're done. To create dimensions more quickly, we also have the baseline and chain dimension commands. So that helps too. So you can just do that. OK. Oops. Maybe I'll move this down a little bit. OK, so that looks better. So back in the annotation menu, we have a couple of other annotations, like right at the bottom, we have the leader and text, and right at the top, we also have centerline and center mark. So let's create a centerline. Let me maybe choose, I'll try to create an axis around here. So let's do that. And you can just select it and edit the grips to extend it out further if you need. So I'm just going to let it go through the midpoint of the other side as well. OK. And then you can continue doing that. You can place annotations on the center line, do what you need to. Let's move to the view on top, which is this one. What I'm going to do now is, OK, we can quickly place some center marks here, like that, or place for the individual holes too. You get the point. We can also place some diameter symbols here. So just go ahead and, oops, I invoked the leader command. OK, so diameter there, and maybe something for the holes too. So that looks fine, but what would be more useful is if we can add more meaning to these annotations. And you can do that by double-clicking and editing the dimensions. So for instance, this one right here, you can sort of make it look like a whole note if you just double-click. And that brings up the in-place text editor. And that's true for any text entity that you have, whether it's a leader or text or title block. Just double-click it, and you'll be able to edit it. So let's add something here. So maybe something like this. And another thing is, this dimension here, though it looks like a linear dimension, we can actually see that this is a circular edge. At this point, we don't really have the support to get the diameter symbol working right away. That's in progress. But until then, you can fake things by just double-clicking. And if you're familiar with the AutoCAD way, you just go and do %C, and that adds the diameter symbol. That's a temporary workaround. OK. So one other thing that you may have noticed is when you edit dimensions, you also get the command dialog on the right with a lot more options that you can tweak around. So you have the primary precision, alternate units, tolerance. There's also representation and the inspection values that you can play around with. For now, maybe we'll just add some tolerance. Okay. Yes?
Could you be clear about what you're doing when you're moving objects around?
Sure. Okay, I'll slow down a little bit. Oh, what key I'm pressing? Okay, so I'll do that, thank you. So earlier, I think what I did was to just select the view and move it around with the center grip. So with each of these entities, if you can select them individually, there are these grips that you can manipulate. Like for the center line, I selected this grip, selected the center line, and I just moved this grip out so you can extend it. You can do that with dimensions too. And for things like views, you have this center grip, which will help you move them around. Yeah, thanks for the tip. Okay, so at this point, let's maybe create one more view. So back to the views panel, we have section view and a detail view as well. You can just place a section view. Or the other access point is when you right click, we talked about the marking menu. So when you right click, you also get this thing called an overflow menu, which is pretty much a representation of the toolbar. So you don't really even have to go to the toolbar every time. You just right click and you can choose the options from there. So I'm going to choose section view from here, select the view that I'm trying to section, and make a section line maybe right through the center, like that. Okay, when you're done, right click, continue, and okay, so I'll just place it somewhere. Oh, that overlaps with the title block a little bit. So again, let's move this out. So I'm going to select the view. And things like projected views and section views, they are aligned to the section line or the view. So I'll just break the alignment using the shift key. You'll get a tooltip about that as well, the dynamic prompt. So I'm just going to move it there. Okay, so that looks better, I guess. So at this point, let's go ahead and save the drawing. And when we do that, okay, I'll just give it some name. So this is going to get saved to the cloud, pretty much like the design that we are working with. So when we start saving it, you'll see that new thumbnail is being generated in the data panel. Another thing that happens is if you go to the file menu, there's an option for related data. And now this is going to create a link between the model and the drawing. So you can switch back and forth from this. So I'm just going to choose the model now. And that's same for the modeling environment too. So if you go to the model and related data, all of the drawings that are created from it, you can see from that option. Okay, so let's close this. So the drawing that we just created is fully associated to the model. So when you make any changes to the model, you can update the drawing as well. So let's take a quick example. So let's say we are going to modify these spaces. I'm going to add, I'm pulling it out and added a 1-inch thickness. Okay. So when you're done with your changes, you can just save it and switch back to the drawing. Okay. And when you do that, you'll notice a notification at the bottom right, which says changes have been made to a reference design. You can update the drawing from the button in the application bar. So that's the same thing that you see here. So this one here is the reference menu. And when the drawing becomes out of date with the model, you'll see there's an option here called Get Latest, which will help you to sync the changes. So I'm just going to do that. And immediately after that, the views and the annotations will adapt to the change. So right there, that become 1.87. So that was the change. Okay. So at this point, I think we can do a couple more edits to make the drawings better and kind of polish it out. So what we can do now is to just double-click edit this isometric view here. And in the style, there's an option to make it shaded if you want to do that. You can do the same thing with other views. Just double-click and edit, just as we did with the annotations. Moving on to the section view here, if you hover not anywhere else but over the hatch instead, you'll see the hatch gets highlighted, and when you double-click the hatch, that brings up the hatch editor instead. And you can change some properties there, like the pattern. It's same as what you would find in AutoCAD. So you have, okay, maybe let's just choose some pattern. You can change the scale and angle, those sort of things. Yes?
Can you add custom hatches?
At this point, no. We don't support custom hatches yet. Okay. What else? What else can we do? Yeah. Excuse me, could you repeat? Whole circle. Oh, like PCD sort of thing? No, not yet again. That's again in the roadmap, but not yet. Yes, please.
Can you create a custom template?
Custom templates? No, not yet. Okay. Our product owner should be here. Let's fire him with those questions.
Tamara's not here because she got her, but I can answer questions of her.
Sure. I think Andrew and Scott are planning to be here too, but anyway, yeah. Thanks. Were there any more questions? Yes.
Can you create the other page from second page from this drawing?
Okay, so that's multiple sheets, right? That's again in the roadmap, which I think we can expect early next year. At this point, again, no.
Can you change the title?
Okay, so you can edit the title block, but you can't tweak around what's available in the properties right now. So you can double-click, edit it, and you can just add values from the command dialog. Like in this case, let me just do something like this. Yeah, so you can edit what's available, and it's configured according to the templates, but you can't change much there, I guess. Okay. Yes, please. Electronically add a logo? Okay. Yes.
Working with inventor drawing sheets, are we able to take this into inventor drawing sheets, or do inventor drawing sheets and bring them here?
Import the drawings. That again is, yeah, no, not quite possible. In this case, we work from the model, so yeah, you can export this and take it into Inventor, but yeah, not the other way around, I guess. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I guess, so one more thing. So here we have the different annotations, but the one thing that I'd like to see which is not there is what units they are drawn in. And you can do what we did earlier to go ahead and edit them individually, but instead if you want something that controls all of them, at the bottom here next to the navigation bar, we have some options there for the drawing settings. So like here there's a sheet settings which will let you change the sheet size, or next to that there's annotation settings which will help you change things like the font, text height, precisions, annotation units, and trailing zeros. So in this case I'm going to choose annotation unit on. And that updates all of the existing annotations and newly added ones as well. But if there are settings like this that you work with all the time, then you probably don't want to do it with every drawing. So you can change the global preferences in that case, which is available here. So this menu here, you can go to preferences, and under the general section, there is one for drawings. And you can set those values here, and every time you create a new drawing, they'll make use of these values. Okay, so let's switch back to the slides now and see what we've done. So we just looked at how to access the Fusion drawings. We took a look at the user interface. If you're on a Mac, trackpad gestures will work too. Then we went into creating drawings and model associativity. Okay, yeah. So we saw how to get the latest changes to get the drawings in sync. But sometimes when you make drastic changes to the model geometry, it's possible that your annotations get disassociated and they get that tiny yellow badge there. And when you click them, once again, you'll get a contextual marking menu and you can choose what to do with them. Yes? No. No.
So you can't change dimension here and then that changes it in the 3D model?
No, it's a one-way associativity at this point. Okay. Moving on, we also looked at how to edit drawings. Then, okay, so the next section is about exploded views. So just as we created drawings from the design, we can also create drawings from the animation environment. So here, back in the model, you can switch to the animation workspace like this, and that's the presentation module in Fusion 360. So I've already done some things here. Maybe I'll just play this for you. Go ahead, play. Okay, so you can choose what to do with your components. You can go to the transform menu here and set things up, or if you want something quick, you can also just right click. There's an auto explode option to create that presentation for you. So once you do that, we can now create a drawing out of this animation workspace. So it's the same thing. Go to the file menu, new drawing, and from animation, some change. Okay, never mind, I'll just save it. So that there said something was changed, so I just saved the change, doesn't matter. So this brings up the same dialog that we saw earlier, except this time the reference is not to the design, but to the animation storyboard. And the rest of the options are the same, so you have the standards and units and sheet size. So we're just going to create the drawing now, and this time the base view that gets created is actually the exploded view. Let's place it somewhere and go ahead and maybe make the scale a little bit bigger. Okay, so that's our exploded view right there. So the rest of the options and everything remain the same. The difference is when you create the drawing from the animation workspace, from that particular storyboard, your base view becomes the exploded view. Okay, and now you can quickly start placing some balloons. You can find that in the bill of materials panel right here. I'm just going to add a few balloons. No, again. No, we can't. But I think it's in the pipeline. It's not available right now. Okay, so you can place some balloons that way, and you can also place a parts list, which is already populated with the values from the model. So you'll see the columns here, things like quantity, for example, represents the number of copies that you have in the modeling environment. Part number, description, and material also come from the model. So if you want to change that, just switch back to, just switch back to the model. Let me go to the modeling workspace. Okay, so let's take this one for instance. Just right click, and you can change the physical material from here, and can do the same thing for the other properties. Like, so there's this properties option. You have part number, part name, and description. So part name is usually what you create the component with. The rest of the values can be configured from here as well. Okay, so going back to our drawing, so those are the columns. If you look at the item number, that gets assigned by default based on the order in which you create the components. But if you want to change that, back to the bill of materials menu, there's an option called renumber balloons, and this will allow you to renumber the balloons as well as the corresponding entries in the parts list. So you can do that, or there's an option to align balloons as well. You can quickly select the balloons that you need to align and just disperse them as you wish. Okay, so the exploded views was a feature that we just introduced with our release in November. And one other thing that we introduced in November is the GD and T symbols. So right here we have the symbol panel, which has the datum identifier and the feature control frame options. Maybe let's take an example and create one. So I'm switching back to the parts drawing here. Oh, once again, it's notifying me because something got saved, but let's just ignore it. Okay, so let's create a datum identifier now. And so the options that you get in the command dialog, once again, are template dependent. Like if it were ISO, I think you also have the datum note and thread note options. So let me create a datum ID and a feature control frame. Okay, so let's specify that this is parallel, specify some tolerance. Yeah, so that's a simple feature control frame right there. So you have more options, just as you would in AutoCAD Mechanical. You have, the all-round top node, bottom node, and first frame and second frame options here that you can work with. One other thing. Sorry? Oh, the right-click one. This one? This one? Oh, I just expanded this one out. Is that what you're asking about?
How did you get to that feature control frames like this?
Oh, okay. So this one right here. So there's datum identifier and feature control frame options. So I just created, let me do that again. So when you start creating this, you can right-click, continue. I generally tend to do that. So once you're done placing that feature control frame symbol itself, it brings up the options that you can work with. So that's the command dialog there. And yeah, the one thing that I did want to mention was, with each of the text fields, you get this tiny little drop-down with a symbol palette that gives you access to special characters that the standards has defined. So you can place some right there. Okay. So I guess that was it. So once again, let me switch back to the presentation and move on. We just looked at how to create exploded views. We go from the animation workspace. And you can place some bill of materials. And yeah, so we have the datum ID and feature control frame symbols as well. They're based on these standards. And you can, like you can see from the screenshot, you can really go crazy with that and create complicated ones as you would in AutoCAD Mechanical. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of this section, which is the user interface and features. Guess we're ready to move on to collaboration and version management. So speaking about collaboration, yes, please.
Could I ask a user interface question here?
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at a dimension, how do you delete it if you don't want it anymore?
Right.
I haven't used this since the last update.
Mm.
I trying to delete dimensions or move dimensions seem to frequently result in moving and disassociation.
Okay. Okay, so let me just do a demo. Let's see if that answers your question. Okay, so you have these dimensions here, and as with other entities, there are grips that you can work with. So these kind of grips will help you position the dimension, but these things might, you're moving it out of the view, so that might cause it to become disassociated. So you can just, at this point, you can reassociate or delete it. That's one thing. Yeah, so I think it's available in AutoCAD as well. It's the dim reassociate command. So you just select that, and then you can specify the points to which you want to associate it back to. So that's one thing. Yes, yes, yes. So at any point when you do a right click, that brings up the contextual marking menu, and it's true for all the workspaces in Fusion 360. Okay, so the other thing about move and delete. So here we have the modify panel with move, delete, a couple of other commands. So if you're trying to move the dimension itself, I guess it would become disassociated like that. Okay, yeah.
That seems like where you should go to move it.
Okay. So in order to avoid that, you can just select the view, and because all of the annotations are associated to the view, when you move this center grip, everything that's associated or aligned to it is going to move along with it. Or the other thing that I would do is probably just, cross-select. I'm sorry, I just did a right click. Okay, I can just, why can't I do that? Okay, I can just select, I was working with the right mouse button. Okay, I can just cross-select or window select whatever and just move all of them together. So just move the view alone, or moving everything together should work, I guess. And if you want to delete it, you can select it and press the delete key. Or the other option is, like this one, you right click, there's a delete option here, or from the modify menu.
The option in the menu up there is designed to do what?
The same thing. It's the same as selecting it, and yeah, so let's maybe look at an example. Delete, select this one. You can select multiple ones if you want, and when you're done, just press enter or right click OK. Yeah, that's it. Was that okay?
Yeah, I think it has been a little confusing because when you delete and you
Right, yeah, so it's still waiting to complete to see what else needs to be done.
If you have delete as an option, it seems like maybe that's the one you should choose. But if you do that, then nothing happens because you just reselected the same command.
Okay, that's an interesting feedback. Okay, thank you.
Speaking from a user standpoint, it's a little circular.
Sorry, just on that, hopefully we'll make sure so we all like what people.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
There was one situation where I inadvertently manually overrode the name of a view, and I didn't want that. Is there a way to return it to an associated name matching the section or email?
Oh, you mean like overrode the name, meaning something like this?
Section, and I accidentally typed over the A-A,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't want that. I wanted to say there was a section label on the other side of this.
Would undo would work? But if, yeah, okay, if you realize much later, I'm sure there's a way to do it, but I can't remember now. I can get back to you on that.
So you just want to reset the content of the label?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's move back. Okay, so speaking about collaboration, so once you're done creating your drawings, there are a couple of different ways in which you can share them. One thing that you can do is from the drawings workspace, there's the output panel where you can find options to export your drawing as a DWIG or a PDF. But you can also take advantage of the A360 collaboration tools that have been built into Fusion 360. So you can invite project members and give them access to all of the files in your project. You can do that in the data panel. If you switch to the people tab, you can start inviting people to add them in. Or if you only want to share individual files, you can also do that from the data panel. Just select that file, right click, you get a menu to do that. That's it. Okay, and moving on to version management. This again, drawings is going to take advantage of the version management that has been built into Fusion 360, and it works for all the files there. So every time you save, there's a new version of the file being created. And the drawings reference specific versions of the model. And we already saw how you can update the drawings to the latest version of the model using the getLatest command. So that's fine. But if you change your mind, you can undo that too. Or at a later point, if you want to access old versions, that's also possible. So what you have to do there for that is we can go to the data panel. And if you look at the screenshot here, I'm accessing this drawing. And if you click on the info button, that'll bring up some more information. And you can start seeing a list of the different versions that you have created in the past. And you can open one of them or promote that one to be the latest, do whatever with that. One more thing that you might notice in the screenshot here is this link here. So just as we had links in the reference menu back to the model and drawings, you'll find the same kind of links in the data panel as well. So you can see all of the files that are related to one file in the data panel. Okay, so we're pretty close to ending. So to summarize what we've just seen, our Fusion Drawings is a very accurate tool with the best-in-class documentation engine behind it. And it has a growing feature set. With every release, we're actively working on adding more value to the customers. And it's also end-to-end. Fusion 360 is that product that's helping us take our ideas from design to concept until production. And drawings is something that makes it possible, and it just fits into the ecosystem. And the other thing is, the ecosystem to access your content. So you can access your files anytime, anywhere, and they'll always be in sync. Okay, so before we get ready for some Q&A, I'd just like to remind you that I think the first two are not relevant anymore, but we also have the Voice of the Customer and Fusion 360 Office booths that are located right here on level 3. So if you're interested in speaking to the Fusion team one-on-one, giving your feedback, anything, just feel free to reach out to us. Okay, are we ready?
What file format is Fusion Drawings? Are they DWG files natively?
Yes, they are DWG files. Well, when they are saved, they are F2D files. Yeah, but internally, it's a DWG file.
Can we open those files using AutoCAD 360 right now?
You can upload it, yeah. So if you want to do that, you can either just use the export option, the one in the output panel, or you know, the F2D, it's just like a zip file. You can rename it and just open the DWG out of it.
I love that you're developing a drawing program intrinsically within Fusion 360, and it's growing, and I get it, and it's nowhere close to being usable for what I need to deliver drawings at. So in the meantime, I'm thinking of what is my countermeasure using another product to finish my drawings. And so my question was, like, is there a way for me to open up the Fusion 360, like put my drawing views in, get as much of the annotation as I can do inside of Fusion, and then finish that drawing in AutoCAD without losing the associativity? No. Not yet. So export out, and where would you, like, what's the best workflow for doing that so that the both drawings are still in the cloud but not indistinguishable from each other? Okay, so let's go into a server, I've got it somewhere, and then see. So as soon as we export, we break that. So you'll have all the associativity from the location you want to use, but you'll lose the track of them. Okay.
Yes.
All changes won't come through the one page. Is there a way to put the drawings intended to use with AutoCAD into the Fusion project so some other drafter can finish it? But I can still put it on AutoCAD, A360. And then, is it possible to see an example of what one of these drawings looks like opened in AutoCAD?
Oh, I don't have AutoCAD installed. Yeah, that's right. It's just a paper space. As he said, right. So you'd be losing the associativity with the model, and it opens up only in paper space. The annotations can be associated to the views, but you know, there's no model changes that can be accommodated after that.
You can add dimensions and measure everything like that.
Okay, so I can set my div scale in AutoCAD. If I know the scale, I can still do that.
You shouldn't even have to do that.
Yeah.
They will come with multiple rotation views. So you shouldn't even have to set them scale. As soon as you associate with drawing view, you should already scale on you.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have to set them scale.
So it comes in, it has a view that has a scale.
It comes in as a drawing view object from model function. I'm not sure if you guys can do it model implementation, but it's essentially doing what Fusion does.
So it's not just plunking line work.
It's a drawing view object. And if you had solid geometry in model space, you could create a drawing view, associate drawing view with that model space. Or, you know, the amount of hard.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, so when you open AutoCAD, you will have that drawing view object, single object, not a bunch of lines out. We just set the link to
But it has grippable points.
yes. You can snap the dimensions. The dimensions will reflect the scale of that view.
Yeah.
So if you've got a base view and a detailed view, it's just that. Is the dimension
The border turned off.
it's visible on all the so people will see.
I can turn it off. And then,
Is there any plans to, move that workflow back? Rather than doing all the dimensioning in the drawing side, do the dimensioning in the modeling side? And so like 3D type stuff, 3D annotation, or, yeah, so being able to define all of your tolerances and geometrical tolerances and that sort of stuff in the modeling environment rather than the drawing. And then
Of course, there's scales to do that. Is where is it practical? And as far as the timing of it, I can't give you, a timeline.
Yes.
I had some issues with one of the people you see from Matt.
There's certain ones that lag behind, right? So that's more sometimes the issue where they can only open up AutoCAD 2014 versus DWG 2014 versus DWG 2016. And so that's usually the case, and we don't currently.
Yes.
This might be a little bit of a more general question, but many times I don't have my computer with me. I do some kind of sketching design work in 1, 2, 3D, but it's quite difficult to get the 1, 2, 3D file, turn it into file and zip geometry out of it, and then upload it. Is there any thought that's ever been given to sort of making the space where 1, 2, 3D design files go also available in Fusion whenever, and explore and take it further into drawing documentation?
It's a little bit along the lines of like how we saw the mental stuff this week. But so it has to do with quads and triangles and how the mesh and how we get that and surfaces and solids the way that Fusion can use. So even though they're all Autodesk products, it doesn't mean they're based off the same kernel, the same meshes. So it really has to do with meshes. There is a workaround flow that you can do to maybe get it in. Right now, the biggest one we're working on, which is still in beta, which is still right now. But that still, to be very honest, isn't quite where, as a user, I would say, I bring it in and have this mesh, but the mesh is still so dense that I can't, if I pull something that's small, I want to actually grab this whole area. So it's coming. We're doing a lot of development in different areas. Once there's a translator that will allow us to do the workflow, it shouldn't really matter which one it is, just converting the triangles to mesh, the actual solids, and the rest.
And I think that's the workaround that I actually found was when unzipping a 1, 2, 3DX file, there was a ref solid buried in the folder structure, and that's what I would upload. But I just say that just because I do a lot of the sketching, ideating, iPad-wise, and then later on for
By the way, Mike from Product Manager for Fusion 360.
Leon UX
Came here to help. That's the one.
Yeah. Hi.
Can you get the tavola out of Autodesk with prominent? Yeah, it says project, what part is it? It says drawing, what part is it? It says, what size sheet, it says, all that stuff. can't do it anymore?
Oh yeah, I can delete that.
I can't, you can't get back. Once you remove it, you can't get back. Ever? Or, for drawings, then,
Per drawing.
every drawing, then print it?
In that drawing, once it's
Oh, yeah, just not drawing.
So if you just want to scale object values or change.
yeah, you can delete level one.
Yes.
When you gave us smart dimensions, why didn't you take away the explicit ways to do that?
Oh, we didn't exactly take away. It's
No,
there.
but why are they still in there?
Oh, why didn't we take away?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. For things like, yeah, why didn't we take away? There's no explicit need. Okay. So when we gave smart dimensions, why are the old dimension tools still there?
So smart dimensions is an excellent tool in a lot of ways, and it does allow for rapid creation of multiple dimensions. But there are certain times when maybe it's a little bit too finicky for it's exactly what we want. So we wanted to allow access to smart dimensions for rapid dimensioning, but in an instance, especially because it was new.
Wouldn't that just mean smart dimensions are broken?
I mean, maybe it's easier to place a linear dimension using a linear dimension tool in a certain instance, or you don't necessarily want to zoom into a state where it's requiring the edge instead of the snap. So there, in case smart dimension wasn't delivering on something, there's a possibility that we might face them out as smart dimension.
Also things like for, the radial and diameter dimensions, there are defaults for the smart dimension tool too. So you'll have to flip it around. Like if it's a full circle, it's a diameter, or arc if it's a radius. So I think giving access to the standard tools just makes it more convenient when you know what exactly you want in that scenario. Okay, are there any more questions? Any feedback?
It's a really good beta, and I'm glad you developed it.
Cool, thanks.
It has a long list of
That is true. Okay, thank you.